Well, it looks like Donald Trump's getting a lot more things done for the people. Anyone who's unemployed, anyone who's been affected by the coronavirus, and we know there are many, many millions of people who are either losing money every month, don't have any income monthly, who are now on unemployment, and because they're receiving a $600 bonus on top of the unemployment, some people are doing a little bit better off. But it's keeping people afloat. It's keeping money moving in the economy. And there's a reason that the Democrats don't want any stimulus. They want to say, let's have stimulus talks like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi did last week. And then they stall those talks by saying we need to have defunding the police mechanisms attached to the stimulus. If we're going to pass a package, we're going to make sure that it's like $3.7 trillion of spending. That's what they were proposing. And then they said, well, we'll take a trillion out, but we're going to have to supplement that money then by defunding the police further across the board. So Trump said, no, we're not doing that. And the White House officials did the right thing. They drafted up all these executive orders, 4 of which were signed over the weekend. This is the payroll tax done for the rest of 2020. Your employer will no longer pay a payroll tax. And actually, that's going to go retroactively to the 1st of July. So they have paid payroll taxes when they cut payroll checks in July. They'll get those taxes back. They also have the jobless aid. That's the unemployment bonus of $600 on top of what your unemployment was going to pay you. Well, that's going to go out through the rest of the year. Also, indefinite suspension of any student loan payments. So kids are out of college. They now have these student loans to pay off. They have these debts that they have to pay monthly, and they don't have an income, many of them. And so even if they're having unemployment plus 600, some of them are only able to pay the interest on those loans. So if you stay the loan and you say, hey, that loan is indefinitely off of being called, obviously you want to still be making payments on it. But the fact that they're not calling those payments monthly helps these people. Somehow the Democrats were against all of those things. In the House and in the Senate, they're rallying against these orders. So this is from this morning. Top congressional Democrats on Sunday criticized President Trump's new executive actions as weak and unworkable. They're weak, and they're unworkable because they help the people and they don't help the Democrats steal money for their elections. While Trump administration officials defending the president's moves said that they were necessary because Democrats won't compromise on a broad coronavirus relief package. Well, we know that. That's true. We saw that last week. And like I said, with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi leading the charge and having those press conferences at the end of the week saying that the president's just asking for too much illogical things and not enough nonsense. That's my best Nancy Pelosi on a Sunday morning. Okay, Trump signed 4 documents on Saturday. It said he would provide economic assistance to millions of Americans, but the White House officials today, Sunday, were hard-pressed to describe precisely how they would work. Well, that seems subjective, don't you think? Well, they couldn't really precisely describe it. Says who? Says this person's opinion. One of the measures aims to provide $300 in new unemployment aid. That seems low. But it's unclear when these benefits may start or if the states are able to implement a new system. Another measure, which aims to defer payroll taxes through from September through December, would require participation from millions of employers, something Democrats said probably wouldn't happen. Hang on. Democrats are saying that employers will opt to continue to pay taxes that they're no longer being asked to? If you're a business owner and you are saying, I'm going to have to participate in not paying payroll taxes, count me out. If you're that guy, comment below. Let me know. I want to know who you are so we can have a conversation about mental health. Democrats pounced on the confusion and said it shows how the White House should resume negotiations with us. You got to come back to the table and talk to us. We need our leverage back. We need our hostage back. We need you back on the table so we can say that we're working. That's what they're saying. Talks had collapsed last week when both sides dug in on what they believed the one-size package should be. That's good. The size of the spending bill matters. And Democrats can't say, well, why not just multiply it by a couple trillion? And then whenever we want something, we have money in the bank because it's an emergency. That's what they're doing. It's not their money. It's ours. Quote, unfortunately, the president's executive orders, described in one word, could be paltry. In 3 words, unworkable, weak, and far too narrow, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said on ABC. Oh, so You have the cuck Schumer on ABC smearing and slandering things that will help people survive this while they inflict the pain. They try to withhold the spending that will help, and then to propagandize against the spending that helps those people says, well, this is unworkable, it's weak, and it's far too narrow. Not enough people are getting it, but it's also not helpful. So is it weak or is it unworkable? And if it's both of those, it's certainly not too far narrow. If anything, it would be too broad, right? Because that's what they're looking for. They want broad, right? They said it just in the last little paragraph. They want a broad relief package. They want a broad relief package. And then he says, well, it's far too narrow as it is. You got to pick one. The coronavirus pandemic has been a devastating impact on the U.S. economy, leading many businesses to close and lay off workers. So there's a chance then, right, that they won't participate in the payroll tax exemption because they won't be paying payroll. That's possible. That's what the spending is there to try to mitigate against. That's why we had this big, multi-trillion-dollar bailout of businesses in the first place, to say, we'll continue to pay your payroll. We're going to give you payroll coverage. There's a lot of hardship out there and a lot of heartbreak, said the White House National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow. So Larry's out there saying there's a lot of hardship, there's a lot of heartbreak, there's a lot of people out there committing suicide and taking pills, and they're freaking out and committing domestic violence, they're committing child abuse, they're falling apart. There are a lot of people right in the middle of America that are falling apart. He says there's a lot of hardship, there's a lot of heartbreak. That's why they're passing these things. The Democrats don't want you to be saved from those things. They're trying to make those things happen because those things, the disparity, that will make the election, they think, go for Joe. In March, in an attempt to blunt the economic fallout, the White House and Congress agreed on a $2 trillion law called the CARES Act that provided the $600 weekly unemployment increase. Eviction protections, so no one can get kicked out of their apartments, that's been extended as well. A range of other measures, both the unemployment aid and eviction protections, expired at the end of July. So, what President Trump did on Saturday was say, hey, retroactively, going back to the 1st of July, and for all on through the rest of this year, those four things are true. Payroll taxes suspended, evictions suspended, a moratorium on evictions. You have the $600 weekly unemployment aid has been, basically bolstered for the rest of this year. And what was the fourth one? Oh yeah, the student loans that are not being called anymore. Remember when all the Bernie bros said we need to forgive all student debt? We need to forgive all student debt, and people kind of on the right or in the middle said, well, we understand forgiving the predatory interest on the debt, because you've seen, stories where people take out massive amounts of debt, then the interest snowballs and the payments they're making are lower than the interest monthly, so they'll never get out of that debt. Why not, totally stay the interest with an executive order and then say, okay, when this all kicks back on, the economy's, going back to life again fully, and everyone seems to be back to normal after the election, return the loan amount, but not the principal, to what the responsibility would be of the person who took the loan out. So in other words, for the students who right now don't have to pay their loans, be saving your money. Be really smart. Save your money, and then when these student loans are eventually kicked back on, and say, okay, we figured it out, you're not going to have to pay the interest, you just have to pay the initial amount that you took. Seems fair. Seems reasonable. You borrowed the money, you got an education, it's your job to use it or lose it, but either way you got to pay what you agreed to pay legally. We can't, as a tax-paying base, just decide to subsidize your income or your education. Especially when you say, well, I don't have the income that I thought I would, so I can't pay it off. Well, then we're certainly not going to pay into that bucket. You just admitted there's a giant hole in the bottom. Pay off your student debt. Let's take care of the principal. Let's not worry about the interest. And it's clear Donald Trump is saying, hey, for all of this right now, you're not paying any of it. Remember that the Bernie bros demanded this, and Bernie said, well, we're not going to do that. Bernie said, well, we're not going to worry about that right now. Let's try to make education free in the future, but we're not going to forgive your debt. Trump's forgiving your debt right now. You got to think about it. Anyways, let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like this video by clicking the like button, because it'll help share it along in the algorithm. And then also share this video, because that overcomes any algorithm tomfoolery that you may find. And then subscribe to this channel because it'll boost those numbers and it'll all keep America afloat.